answer some things. So it sounds like some people were put in this room and maybe don't, wouldn't have chosen this, and that's okay. But we have 4 panelists here today. One's going to be Bob from OSU Agricultural Lab. One is Matt Faust from ODNR Fisheries. Gabe Vidako from New Horizons Baking Company, and Juniper from Vermilion Valley Winery. And so careers in agriculture and the food cluster involve improving the quality and safety of food, cultivating and preserving our natural resources, caring for animals, and obviously making food as well. What we're going to do is we're going to go panelist by panelist, and I'm going to ask some questions. Students, please ask questions if you're intrigued during the time. Michelle, my assistant, wave your hand, Michelle, will be also looking at that chat box and helping us. And panelists, please interact with them. It's the last of 4 sessions, so we need to keep them awake. All right. Okay. So my first panelist is Bob Filburn. He is the manager at the Muck Crops Agricultural Research Station. And so Bob, do you want to give an overview of what you do there?
Yeah, sure. Love to. Welcome everybody. I'm glad to have a few of you in here today. Again, my name is Bob Filburn. I'm with Ohio State University, but I'm with one of our research stations, which is located here in Willard, just south of Willard. I manage a facility that's a working farm that is used to address a lot of the challenges faced by the vegetable producers right here around us here in the Celeryville area. We're on about a 15-acre parcel of land. We address the challenges that these growers are facing day in and day out. So, the idea is that kind of like with our whole college is, our college at Ohio State is called the College of Food, Agriculture, and Environmental Science. So any of those areas of interest that you might have would fall, under our college. So it would not necessarily just be farming, although a lot of it is. It could also be somebody that cares deeply about the environment. It could be somebody that's interested in ecology in Lake Erie. So all of that would fall within our college. It's just specifically what I work with are vegetable diseases that our growers face, weed challenges, diseases, and insect pressure. So that's kind of a summary of who I am and kind of what we are.
That's great. So can you tell us a little bit about the Muck Station, meaning like where it's located and how students could possibly get involved as well? I'm really shocked at this data on the right in the black box that we rank so high in vegetable production. So maybe give us a little bit of information on all that.
Sure. So our research facility is located, maybe 3-4 miles south of Willard on State Route 103. You'll hear people refer to the muck. The muck refers to the soil right here in this pocket that was part of the Willard Marsh, created, through a glaciated area that was carved out, and then from all the, the deposits of the various organic matter, it's a very rich soil that basically we're compared to Salinas Valley of California. So we are basically the kind of the vegetable bowl of Ohio is what we're considered. And I work with a series of growers here that market produce. If you've eaten produce, you've probably eaten produce that's grown right here in my pocket, because these growers are selling produce up and down the eastern seaboard, and as far west as the Mississippi River.
Great.
Did I tackle that?
Yeah, you did. And can you tell us a little bit about how you got to where you are in your job?
Sure. I have a 4-year degree from Ohio State. It's in agriculture, although it's not in vegetable production. It was actually in landscaping. So landscape horticulture was my area of specialty. From there, I actually worked in the retail garden center market for a number of years in the Cincinnati area. From there, I actually left that and actually did help and was farming for a while as well with corn and soybeans with an area farmer in the Clark County area. Following that, actually was self-employed. My wife and I had a perennial nursery where we grew perennial flowers and shrubs. And actually after 9/11, our business collapsed and we lost everything. So I'm actually a product of a failed business. So I have scars to show for that. Following that, I actually left the industry for about 6 years before really missing my interaction with plants. And at that point, I was hired by North Carolina State University, where I was an extension educator or an agent, as they refer to them. So if any of you are familiar with 4-H, that is one of our specialties with extension in various states. So I specifically worked with urban horticulture, so anything related to growing of plants by homeowners. I also worked with beekeepers, and I also worked in forestry. And then about 7 years ago, I was hired into this position at Ohio State, returning back. I grew up in Ohio, so I'm returning home and trying to serve, our local agriculture in this area.
Great. So if a student is interested in agriculture, are there any opportunities at your research station for them?
Sure. Every year I typically hire 2 to 3 students. Those students are generally employed. I generally bring them on board at the end of their school year. So end of May to early June. Typically it's about a 3-month window, generally through the end of August, possibly a little longer depending on into September if their schedule allows. Some are high school students, some are college students. It would give a student a good introduction into vegetable crop production. Now, I want to also say that our college is large. We employ about 1,800 total faculty and staff at Ohio State and the College of Agriculture. So maybe your interest wouldn't be vegetables, but maybe you're interested in livestock or you're interested in corn and beans. There are 8 or 9, I guess, other stations, research stations, just like mine across, our state, that hire just like I do. So if you're willing to move just a bit, there are other opportunities in other cropping systems. You could go to Ashtabula and you could work with grapes. You could go to Noble County and you could work with cattle. So there's a lot of opportunity within Ohio State, and just on the broad brush of Ohio State, for those that may not be interested in agriculture, if you Google, you'll be amazed how many employees Ohio State employs. We employ, I checked this morning, over 30,000 employees through the Ohio State University. So that's between faculty and staff. I think there was 22,000 staff members like myself. So, if you're interested in kind of ongoing learning, having a profession, but also learning along the way, Ohio State would be, a consideration for you.
Great. Thank you so much for that overview. Sorry. Thanks for that overview. Appreciate it. Next, we're going to go to Matthew Faust. Is that how you say your last name? He's a fisheries biologist 2 at ODNR Division of Wildlife. So Matt, can you tell them sort of about your day in your life and also what you do over at ODNR?
Yeah, so I'm a fisheries biologist, and there are a whole bunch of different careers within the Department of Natural Resources and within the Division of Wildlife. So we hire wildlife biologist. So if you don't necessarily like fish, but you like to hunt, or deer, waterfowl, there's land management, forestry, lots of different careers, but all related to natural resources within the state of Ohio. A typical day in my position sort of depends on the time of the year. So generally from about this time through late October or early November, we're out in the field several times a week, or a month in the rivers, or out on the main lake on Lake Erie. But we also have a number of stations, sort of like Bob had said, throughout the state. So there's offices in Columbus, Findlay, there's hatcheries throughout the state. So if you're looking for positions, there's lots of different stations throughout Ohio. Mine is located in downtown Sandusky, right on Lake Erie. Yeah, typical day, it sort of depends. We could be out on our large vessel trawling. We might be setting gill nets. I'm involved in a number of research projects where we're interested in where fish move. So I've been spending more and more time going out and actually fishing for walleye, and then performing surgery on them to put small trackers into the fish so that we can then follow their movements, like you might see on Shark Week, where they're looking at where the fish are moving. So it's pretty varied. And during the winter, everyone thinks that our lives slow down and we're just throwing pencils into the ceiling, but that's actually the busiest time. And when we're analyzing all of the data that we collect during the spring, summer, and fall, we're running that through our various analysis programs and writing our reports to sort of talk about the health of the lake in the previous year.
Great. And can you tell everybody, like, were you always interested in this field? You know, what your education was, how you got to where you are?
Yeah, so I was pretty fortunate in that I knew I wanted to be involved in natural resources, or being a fish biologist pretty much from the get-go. So I've never really had a question in my mind, but yeah, my education is a 4-year degree. I did not grow up in Ohio. I'm from Wisconsin. So I went to one of the smaller University of Wisconsin schools for my undergraduate. And then after that, generally to get a full-time permanent position in any state's Department of Natural Resources, you need at least a 4-year degree. Generally, if you want to be a biologist or something like that, you're looking at a master's degree, which is an additional 2 to 3 years of graduate school. And I'm actually dumb enough that I went on after my master's degree, and I'm working right now at Michigan State University to get my PhD. That's just because I'm a glutton for punishment. You definitely don't need 16 years of schooling to get a job with the Division of Wildlife. But after I had graduated with my master's degree, I left Wisconsin and worked for the Great Lakes Fisheries Commission in Ann Arbor, Michigan. They help coordinate a lot of the management that goes on across the Great Lakes. And I was there for a couple of years, and the job opened up here in Sandusky. And I've been here since 2014, and I love working on Lake Erie, and I don't plan on leaving anytime soon.
Okay, great. And last question is, what advice would you give to these graduating seniors looking to get into your field of work?
So if there are folks in this room that are interested in the outdoors, I would take a look at some of the careers that are available through the Division of Wildlife, because there are a ton of varied ones. But if you're specifically interested in science and you want to get into the management or of fish and deer or waterfowl, I would encourage folks to really lean into the math and the statistics. And if you're interested in coding, those are skills that I definitely wish I had worked on a little bit more as a high schooler or even an undergraduate.
Adam, do you have a question? I have Adam raising his hand. I just want to make sure, Adam Baker, do you have a question for our panelists, or is that, you can unmute if possible.
Oh, my bad.
Never mind. He said my bad. Okay. No, I'm good if people want to ask questions while they're talking. That's great. Okay, great. Thanks, Matt. I appreciate your time. We're going to move on to the next panelist. Next up is Gabe Bediako, who is our training manager for New Horizons Baking Company. Gabe, you want to tell us a little bit about what New Horizons does? And obviously you're in the food and agriculture topic, so take it away.
Yes. Yes, good morning, everybody. I'm glad and excited about this opportunity to talk to you. New Horizons Baking Company provides fresh baked foods for the whole country. We cover from Canada, Toronto, all the way down as far as Maine, Florida, and we go as far west as drew a blank. Hold on. Don't get old, you drew blanks. As far as Kansas City. We produce food, again, in mass quantities, and we feed half the country.
That's great. Do you want to talk about, since we're in the food and agriculture, maybe what it goes into the science or how you come up with the recipes for what you do?
Yes. First and foremost, we have R&D. We have R&D co-workers that work with us, and they do the research and development. And there's a science behind the baking. There's a science when it comes to yeast, because yeast is a living organism. So you have to do what we call time and temperature. So everything doesn't work the same way every day. So there's a formulation that goes into the process. You have to be aware of the temperature because humidity plays a role. You have to be aware of the age of the flour yeast because that plays a role. And even the water, how soft or hard it is, or the pH balance in the water. So there's a thinking and actually involvement that goes around the way that we approach it. Because to get a quality bun, it's a different animal every day.
Great. Do you want to talk about possibly a typical day at New Horizons, what that looks like and what type of skill sets are there?
Okay, so we have a vast array of skill sets needed to work here. We have bakers, we have IT, human resource, quality control, maintenance, engineering, finance, administrative, line workers, transportation, shippers, receivers, and we all, pitch in. So a typical day in New Horizons would start with baking the buns and/or muffins. So we process 1,000 buns a minute. That's 1 minute, 1,000 muffins and 1,000 buns. Then we freeze it, flash freeze it. We put it into a freezer. We get it ready to be shipped out. Then transportation takes over, and they ship it to the various DCs. And then the DCs will take it and ship it to the various locations that is needed. And then if you happen to go into a restaurant, the chances are you might be eating something that we produced.
Great. And you were here at the beginning when I was trying to poll the students. Some of these students may not be interested in agriculture or food, but I do know a little bit about New Horizons, and it's a great opportunity for seasonal help and summer jobs. So if these are seniors needing to make some money, can you talk about that real quick?
Absolutely. That's my story. Okay, my story started when I was in school. I needed a summer job. So I happened to wander into a Wonder Bread facility. I stayed there for the summers. For almost 3 years I worked. One day they offered me an opportunity to go into a management training program. So I left school because when I was in school, I wasn't sure what I wanted to do. I was just there. And what I was finding was I was accumulating all these student loans really without the purpose. So when the management training program was offered to me, I went into it. And I went into it really, again, not knowing exactly what to expect, but I did know what I want out of life. And what I wanted was some material things, and I wanted the opportunities to help my family, my mother in particular. I grew up very poor, didn't have access to material things, but this job was paying me well. It gave me an opportunity to travel, which I'd never traveled as a child. It brought me to spaces and places that I never imagined I would be in. So I kind of focused on that. I kind of focused on that opportunity to do things with my hands, to think about stuff that I wanted, and then to obtain the material stuff and help my family at the same time. So if you're not sure, the opportunity is always here.
That's great. And then last question is, what advice would you give these graduating high school seniors as they're about to graduate?
Okay, first and foremost, think about who you are. Think about what you want, okay? And then I would say that if you can, work on your interpersonal skills. Take some classes that deal with leadership and then critical thinking. Because if you apply all this to your personal life, it'll help you to figure out what exactly is in front of you. In today's environment, we find that people don't stay in jobs very long because they're not sure. So if you could identify what is in you that you're searching for, chances are whatever you land on, whatever you're doing, you might find enjoyment. And that's all you want.
Great advice. Thank you so much for giving an overview of New Horizons. And we're going to go on to our next panelist. Our next panelist is Joe Juniper of Ohio Vineyard Management. He is the co-owner and a winemaker. Joe, welcome. And if you could give us an overview of what you do.
Hello, yeah. So you see on your screen there, Ohio Vineyard Management. We're the second largest vineyard within the state of Ohio with over 100 acres of wine grapes. We own several wineries throughout the state of Ohio, north central Ohio specifically. And our goal is to grow grapes, make wine. I call myself a winemaker because that's kind of the romantic thing to be and fun thing to be. But at the end of the day, I'm a farmer. I got boots on my feet, Carhartt on my head, and I'm a farmer. So I spend about 3/4 of my time out in the field. And we don't just grow grapes, we grow other small specialty crops like blueberries, blackberries, raspberries, and a little bit of apples as well. Anything that can be fermented, we kind of have our eye on. I got into the agricultural world kind of different than most people. I see one fella here, wants to grow corn, corn, soybeans. This is middle America. Let's face it, what we know as agriculture is corn and soybeans, and that is great. We need that in our lives. I'm a 2010 graduate of Sandusky High School, Go Blue Streaks. I come from a rather poor family background. How does a poor kid from Sandusky, Ohio, get into growing grapes, much less owning and operating over 100 acres in north central Ohio? There's a lot of inputs in this. Unless you are born into a family that is a corn soybean farm, you have mass acreage. It's a tough field to get into naturally. In my case, I've always loved plants. As a young man, 13 years old, I wanted to work with plants, and what better than for somewhere that we can ride our bicycle to. At 13 years old, not having a driver's license, I wanted to work with plants. And so we didn't have any produce farms, any apple orchards, and anything right in the center of Sandusky, Ohio, but we did have several vineyards. So I started in a vineyard when I was young, doing all the things that I did then, what I do now, pruning, harvesting, weeding, spraying, putting on spray programs, and really learning how to grow a grape, learning how to grow a crop, and learning how to work with other people to be able to do so. There are a lot of different angles people can take to agriculture. You can, like I said, you can be born into it. You can go into it naturally. You can go to college for it. But ultimately, you have to have a goal, and what crop you want to work with is big.
That's great. Again, do you have any advice that you would give these seniors?
Yeah. really agriculture is a culmination of all of your STEM programs. Every day we use math, we use technology, we use the history of our field, and try to become as well-rounded as possible in those subjects. That's not to say that you have to become a mathematician or Sir Isaac Newton or anything in that way. But to have a general basis and a general knowledge of what it takes to wake up in the morning and have problem-solving skills. Every morning that we wake up, we don't know what exactly we're going to get into. Is it raining out? Is it nice out? Is it cold out? Is it hot out? And all of this is every single situation requires a different response. I'm not good at fixing things. So what do? We look at YouTube and we try to learn how to fix a tractor. And, but these critical thinking skills is important. And just get out there and get at it. Take an interest in something. You don't have to go to college. Unlike Matt down there that spoke before me. That's a field that you pretty much have to go to school for. You need at least a 4-year degree. It says 6 years degree. In my case, I'm an Ohio State dropout. I went to school for a year, found that what I was learning at school, although it was applicable to my ultimate goal, I found that ultimately being on the farm, working every day alongside a mentor, was as important, if not more important, than anything that I was going to learn in a college classroom. At this point, I think the school system is pushing heavily for kids to go into college, and it's important. And there are many fields that you need a degree for, but I think something that is oftentimes overlooked is what I mentioned is this mentorship. So finding somebody that is well-versed in a field, well-versed within a curriculum, and has their own style of doing things, spending time with them, whether you're compensated for that time within an internship, whether you're compensated at all or inexpensively compensated. I spent a lot of time within a mentorship, learning from others, and trying to build what I know based on others' successes and failures. And now we work hand in hand. We work hand in hand with the Ashtabula Research Station at Ohio State. I sit on several boards and committees with Ohio State within the viticulture and enology, that being the grape growing and winemaking department at Ohio State, and do a lot of research and development to try to get us even farther in life of what is best to be able to grow grape in North Central Ohio. This is a rather new crop. Grapes in Ohio for several centuries. I mean, going back to the 1800s, but we weren't growing the same varieties. We weren't faced with the same challenges with new invasive species, with climate change. All of these things are things that kind of keep us on our toes as we move forward, and it keeps things interesting. I have pretty severe ADD, and this is one job that I can wake up in the morning. I can put my biologist hat on. I can wake up in the morning. I put my chemist hat on when I go to the cellar and I'm making wine. I'm an educator at times. I'm a host at times. I'm a chef at times. So it's a very diverse field to be in. And like I said, specialty crops is important. Specialty crops, you see on your screen this 100 acres. This is a very a rather large operation, but we started out with 8 acres. 8 acres is a fairly modest foundation, and this is something that you can kind of build your business kind of in a grassroots kind of small steps, and you don't have to take off with hundreds of acres and millions of dollars worth of overhead. It's achievable. Like I said, specialty crops small fruits, blueberries, grapes, apples. These are things that even people without a whole lot of resources can get into.
Thank you, Joe. I appreciate all that. We have about 5 more minutes before we're all going to be brought back into the main room. There's going to be an ending of the day in the main room for the last 10 minutes. So I know at the beginning, some of the students said they weren't sure why they were there, or I don't know what I want to do. I really think this is a great time. You've got some panelists here who have given some great advice. Anybody want to ask some questions of the panelists, or please put it in the chat box. I want to look to see. Adam Baker, I don't want to put you on the spot, but I know you didn't end up on, you don't know how you ended up on this, but do you have anything you want to ask for advice? Or some of you said, I'm not sure what I want to do. I know Jesus said that. Anybody willing to? Oh, here, Adam said, for Joe, in 3 years from now, if I go to your winery and ask for your finest wine, what are you giving me?
Yeah, so we specialize in classic European grapes, like names that we know, like Cabernet and Chardonnay. Actually, our Cabernet Franc, this is a grape variety and a style of winemaking. Was one of 6 wines to be featured in the Congressional Ball on Capitol Hill. And so one of 6 wines in the entire country. So Cabernet Franc is our number one, what our climate, what our soil can produce here, but we produce a lot of wines, and in 3 years, come and see us. Or less than that, if you're interested in learning about growing grapes, we do bring on interns, and we do bring on kids all the time to try to teach them and learn and grow. And some stay with us, some go, some decide that standing in 2 feet of snow and 0 degrees isn't for them, and some absolutely love it. So
great. Matt, did you have your hand up? I just wanted to make sure. Matt, did you want to say something?
I did. I just wanted to kind of echo what Joe had said about this line of work being great for folks like us that maybe have a bit of ADD. You never know what your day is going to hold when you come into the office. And another thing, like I didn't want to make it sound like to get into the work with the Division of Wildlife or the DNR was some ivory tower endeavor. A lot of the skills that I also wish I had, in addition to being able to code a little bit better on a computer, would be the ability to be able to just look at things and fix things and be a little bit more handy. And so a lot of folks that maybe in here have those skills that are interested in the outdoors. Those are certainly valuable skills within my organization as well.
That's great. Any of the panelists want to say anything else before we head back into the main room? All right. So students, we're going to go to the blue button, leave room. You're going to go back in the main room. You want to stay there because we are going to have a wrap-up session. Panelists, thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate it. I'm going to make sure I reach out to the students with your contact information so they can try to reach out to you if they're interested in anything. All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you.